Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Feed Your Mind. I am excited today. We got a guest. Let me tell you, Michelle Kuei. Um, Unbelievable story, and I'm not going to steal her thunder, but I will say that Michelle was permanently disabled at the age of 11 after a very horrific traffic accident. But what she did after that is simply amazing and so inspirational, Michelle. I cannot tell you how happy I am and appreciative of you to spend your time with us today. So, welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited and aloha.
Aloha. Aloha. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, I am here in Hawaii, and that is our way of saying hello. Aloha means a lot of things, but for today it means welcome and welcome, Michelle. And I'm actually going to turn it right over to you so you can share with us your amazing story, Michelle Kue, folks.
So I kind of want everybody to imagine you waking up in the middle of the day. You're 11 years old, probably had the best of your life for the last 11 years or 5 years or 6 years. And suddenly you found yourself in a hospital bed surrounded by all these white sheets. And the only person that you can see and hear are your parents talking to the doctor. And there you are, looking down to your waist. You're trapped. That was exactly how I found myself at age 11. I was coming out from school one day, and as I was crossing the street to meet my parents, my mom, who came to pick me up, I was crossing the street, and suddenly I heard all these chaos and camaraderie that was happening around me. I had no clue what was happening. The next thing I knew, woke up in a hospital bed. So a lot of my recollection to exactly what had happened to me on that day when I was 11 came from uh, people who are passing by, my friends who were shouting behind me, "Stop, stop." But there I was. I woke up in the hospital bed, found myself trapped. I had this accident where the taxi that ran over me was running a red light. So by the time I got to the middle of the street, I had no idea and no clue of what was coming towards me. I stood there for a brief second, trying to comprehend what was going on around me, but I couldn't. And there's a saying that goes, you found yourself at the wrong place at the wrong time. That was me at 11 years old. Since then, for the following 4 years, I spent going in and out of the hospital, going through rehab. My doctor, before he released me, he gave me a pair of really ugly metal brace to wear. He said to me, "Michelle, from now on, you're going to wear this pair of shoes for the next 18 years until you stop growing." And of course, that was me, 15 years or 4 years after my accident. I was 15 years. I had no clue and no idea of what the consequences would be for not listening to someone who is expert. And so I decided that I wasn't going to do what he said because wearing that metal brace on myself, it means that I don't look pretty. I have to walk clunky. I have to walk with two crutches, and I have to be everything else that I am not pretty. And 15 years old, I mean, if you look at your life, 15 years old, what were you doing? You're probably running on the street. You're probably going to the gym. You're probably grabbing ice cream with your friend. But what were you doing in 15? For me, it consists of walking with two crutches and wearing that pair of ugly shoes. So as you can imagine, there was a lot of peer pressure, self judgment that was happening in my life, where it led to a lot of I didn't believe in myself. I don't believe that I am pretty enough. I don't believe I am capable of doing things. I don't believe that there's a one single possibility that I could go back and being like a normal person. And so all my life, I grew up thinking that there's nothing about me that's important, that's significant, and there's nothing about me of having this big dream. I didn't have any big dream. All I could think of is how do I get through today so that the girl sitting next to me wouldn't laugh at me the way that I walk. So the guy who's across the cafeteria would maybe like me just a little bit, maybe just a little bit more. That was all I could think of. Moving forward, I spent all my life for the past 30 something years. That was the mindset that I carry myself. Didn't believe who I was. I was continue to play small. And even up until today, I still go through these moments where I don't believe in myself. I have self doubt. The fact that I look different, I'm 4 feet 4 inches tall, I walk with crutches, there's not a single physical appearance about me that looks normal. And so when I was 40, I decided I woke up and perhaps like many of us, we woke up one day and just feeling completely depressed and feeling not motivated. And there's nothing that really get us excited. Going to work sounds so terrible, right? I have to clock in and clock out and maybe listening to the boss who's just behind my back and macromanaging me all the time. I was getting really tired and frustrated. So when I was 40, I woke up one day and I said to myself, I said, Michelle, if your lifespan is 80, then you just lived halfway through your life. Is this what you want to feel like every day, waking up in the morning? And we all heard that voice in our head, that inner critic sometimes, right? But little did I know that that inner critic sometimes can be actually beneficial to hear some voice of wisdom. So that voice actually turned into a voice of wisdom, and he was asking me, Michelle, is this how you want to live your life for the rest of the years? Is this what you want? And it was for sure, the answer was really obvious to me that I don't want to live this way for the rest of my life. So what do I do? And I was sitting there and I was so anxious trying to figure out, okay, so what is my next step? What would be my next step? And that answer came around that, Michelle, you need to make a one change. And that one change would be something to do for yourself. Oh, but what? But what? Just because you had that aha moment doesn't mean that, the things will change immediately, right? We all go through that journey, and that journey sometimes takes years and months and multiple tries. Maybe you try something and you fail, and you're gonna get up and you're gonna try again. And that was me having that idea. Okay, well, so I got to do something different. And so one day, I was driving to Walmart, a convenience store, a grocery store. It was Walmart. And I remember driving there and I was parked in the parking lot. And I got out of my car and I looked down. I was wearing a white t-shirt. So I looked down. Oh, and there was a stain on my t-shirt. And it happened a couple of times, right? So there's a saying that goes, if something happened to you multiple times, then it's probably number one, you need to change the pattern, or number two, it's probably a signal for something else that's happening in your life, right? So that was my signal for having that stain on my clean white t-shirt. So I'm like, it happened so many times. Where did it came from? So I stepped back into my car and I looked down. Oh, there it was. I allow myself to neglect myself so much that my muffin top, my stomach was rubbing against the wheel, which was rubbing against my belt. And that was my funny moment. Right now, when I look back and I can laugh about it, but in that moment, I'm like, holy crap, what's going on here, right? I still walk with crutches. I don't run. I can't exercise too much. And so what do I do? What do I do to keep myself healthier? How do I keep myself happier? And it was in that moment when I was sitting in the car in the Walmart parking lot that I realized I gotta do something drastically to change myself, change the way I think about myself, change the way that I was taking care of myself. So I came home. I went into the Walmart, right? I went into the Walmart and I bought this a Pilates ball. You've seen those Pilates balls. It's big. You bring it home. You're supposed to work out, exercise, and that's what I did. That was my first step. I bought this Pilates ball bag, and I thought, well, I couldn't run because I'm physically disabled. And so the least I can do is I can sit. My waist is still functional, right? So why don't I just sit on the Pilates ball? And then I started to Google. And sometimes, when we're so lost and not sure where to look, Google is your best friend. Okay. Search on Google. Maybe it's Mel's podcast that had helped you. Search on Google. Google is gonna have a lot of answers. So that's what I did. I had a Pilates ball. I went on to Google. I searched for videos that taught me how to use this exercise ball. And that was my initial step, my aha moment, which then snowballed into, okay, I can get into the movement. I can do something. I can do light exercises and I can eat healthy, right? So I started to be very conscious about what I put into my body. I was counting. I pick up every time I go shop, I would pick up the label and I start reading what's on the label. If it contains more than 3 ingredients, and I don't buy it. I'm just putting it back. If I can pronounce it, then I'm putting it back. So I become very conscious about how I take care of myself, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. And this is so addicting. It's a good addiction, by the way. Once you start taking care of yourself, you know that you're capable of doing something, even no matter how small it is. It start to increases your endorphin. It start increases your dopamine. You start doing more, right? And that's how we get into motivation. Motivation doesn't just come and show up to your doorstep. Motivation requires you to take some action. When you start taking little tiny baby steps, the motivation is going to follow. So that was me. I started to do something and my endorphins start kicking in. It motivated me wanting to do some more. And then so that more involves me signing up to a gym. I start working with a personal trainer. And my personal trainer taught me how to walk on the treadmill, holding onto the rail slowly and slowly every day. I progress and increase the rate a little bit more every single day. And I was persistent in doing it for a long period of time. And so the following year, after I worked with a personal trainer, I came to the gym one day and I said, look, I want more. My endorphin is like way up high. It's bigger than I am, right? So I said, I want more. And he's like, great. What do you want to do? I said, I want to go hike. Because at that time, my a lot of my colleagues had came back from a really amazing trip. They all went to Cusco, Peru, and they all went on this infamous Inca Trail, which consists of 26 miles hiking 4 days in the mountain in the Andes, and they went to Machu Picchu. And that sense of belonging in this world, that's really important for having that sense of community, right? That's something that we all strive and look for. We want someone who understands us. We want someone who can listen to us. We want some type of connection so that we feel we belong somewhere. And that was something that I didn't have. Because being someone who's physically disabled, who look very different, who's 4 feet 4 inches tall, who can't find a single piece of garment that fits me without actually seam it down or tear it down. I was looking for that sense of community. Where do I belong? And so when people are talking about, oh, this amazing trip to Machu Picchu, and I thought, well, I want to be that part of that conversation. So I told my personal trainer that day, I said, look, I want to hike. And where I want to hike is I want to hike the Machu Picchu. I want to hike to Machu Picchu. And his jaws start dropping and he's like, Michelle, I know you're courageous enough to come into the gym, but people die in Machu Picchu, right? They fall off the cliff. There's a lot of things happen. There's pulmonary hypertension. You get out of breath. You're not ready for this. I'm like, no, I'm totally ready for this. And he looked at me. What I had was determination, dedication, and discipline. And these became my 3D rules in life: determination, dedication, and discipline. And so he saw me, he saw the look on my face. I was determined. I was ready to do this. There's no way that I'm going back to live the life that I had. So I'm going to do this. Whether I die out there, I don't come back, that's okay. But I'm going to do this. I'm going to do something very different for my life. And so he started to train me, and every weekend I would go and hike. I would use my 2 crutches as my hiking pole. Every single weekend, I would go up and hike in the mountain here nearby me. And it's almost the same height, probably half. half of what Machu Picchu is, but it's the tallest mountain here in the area that I live. So every weekend, I would throw my day pack on, I would get my water going, and I would just go hike. I did that for a year. So in 2016, I booked myself a ticket, flew myself from Cusco, from Los Angeles, California, where I live, to Cusco, Peru. And I hiked through 4 days of Inca Trail, 26 miles through the Inca Trail into Machu Picchu. And I remember the last day, it was the last 50 steps before I go into the sacred area of Machu Picchu. I was looking in front, I was standing in front of the last 50 steps, and I look up, and the angle is about 70 to 80 degree vertical. And there I was. How the heck am I going to go up there? How the heck am I going to use my two crutches to land on these steps? And so I hire in order for me to protect myself, I hired an additional tour guide to walk with me, who's a local guy, and he was great. He kept me busy. He kept me motivated during that trip. And I said, here, look, I'm going to have to climb these 50 steps in order to be safe. So here, take my crutches. So I took off my day pack, including my crutches. I gave it to him. I said, go up there and meet me. And so what did I do? I got down to my knees and hands. I crawled 50 steps to the top of Machu Picchu, going into the sun gate. And so there's a video on my YouTube station. Actually, you can watch. It's a 4 minutes video where I was hiking the last couple of feet, 100 feet, into the sun gate. The moment that I entered the sun gate, after I climbed the 50 steps, the moment I entered the sun gate, all these people around me, they all stood up and they were cheering for me. And there was a guy who came from Canada. He took down his Canadian pin. He came over to me and he said, "Here you go. You are a honorary Canadian now." And I remember, so right now I'm talking about this story and I get really emotional because it was in that moment I realized that what you believe, you achieve. And this quote came from Wayne Dyer, right? What you believe, you achieve. And so I walk away with an enormous amount of courage, of inspiration, of motivation that I wasn't someone who's insignificant. And I wasn't someone who couldn't do and dream big as long as I believed. And so as we're wrapping up my story, I want you to think about your story. Okay. There's a lot of moments in life where perhaps it led you to believe that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not skinny enough. There's a lot of enoughness that we started to learn and believe in. And perhaps it's a judgment that's been going around your environment, around your workplace, in your life, that led you to believe that you don't have enough. You never had enough. And so one thing that I want you to start to work on is, what do you need to believe in order to achieve? And what you believe is what you're going to achieve. So if you're going to believe that today is going to be a day that sucks, today is not going to be a day that's a good day, then that's what you're going to accomplish. That's what you're going to achieve. But if you wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, today I have the superpower to decide how my day is going to be. Today I am going to bring my gifts. Today is the day that I'm going to make a difference in this world. Then that is going to become something that you accomplish, and it's going to become something that you achieve. So there's four 4 very important lessons that I have learned in my journey. Number 1 is you have to start honing in your superpower. What is your superpower? What is something that you're so good in doing that nobody else can do it besides you? That is your superpower. So, what is your superpower? Second thing is you got to be open, open to opportunity, open to change, right? Life sometimes doesn't happen the way that we want. But when there's changes in your life, are you opening your arm to welcome the learning experience? Are you welcoming it with embracing it with the possibility that there could be something different? And the third thing is you have to have persistency. You gotta have the persistency in doing things no matter what comes up, right? The fear is always going to show up. There's hesitation, there's doubt that's always going to show up. Can you be persistent? Show up with your courageous self, no matter what is in front of you. And the last thing that I have learned is that you have to bring in your energy, right? If you want positivity, show up being positive. If you want the negativity, then you'll notice that you're always going to attract a lot of negativity. So, the type of energy that you bring into your world, to your everyday life, it's going to change those people around you. And ultimately, those changes around you is always going to influence how you feel about yourself. So, show up, engage, bring in your energy. Sometimes, yes, you do have to fake it till you make it. But I promise you, if you can show up 100% being who you are, all these around you are going to find it so enjoyable. They love to be around you, and more of the abundance is going to come and show up. So, the 4 things I have learned: honing your superpower, open and embracing to change, persistencies, right? Show up no matter what, and energy. Bring in your energy. So, if you think about all these things I have talked about, what essentially you have is hope. HOPE, hope. Every day, be that somebody to bring hope for others. And hope is contagious. When you give someone else hope, that hope is going to come back 100%. There's my story.
You know, um, I'm over here trying to digest that story. I'm over here thinking about when I was 11. I was playing football, I was playing baseball, I was body surfing here at the beaches of Hawaii. When I was 15, I was still playing football. I was working. I was doing all these things. And I can only imagine how difficult it was at that young age for you to have gone through that. And I know how cruel peers can be, especially at that young age. And you had to
Yeah.
have experienced quite a bit of teasing and bullying, and even just people looking at you in a different way because you definitely look different. But when did you become comfortable sharing your story? I know 40 seems to be a milestone, and I definitely want to get into the discussion about Machu Picchu, but I. But when did you become comfortable sharing your story where it, because like you said, even now, I'm sure you have those moments, you have those days that, you know, doubt sets in and you overcome that. But that doesn't happen when you're 11 or 15 or even 18. When
Mhm.
did you become comfortable of sharing this?
I became really comfortable about talking my story after I returned from Machu Picchu and after I published my book. So my book, I written a book called Perfectly Normal, that immigrant stories of making it in America. And I remember in that book, I was still hesitating to talk about a lot of the details about my story. And I got to very comfortable after I published the book, and I was sitting with this dream that my story can possibly inspire someone else. And it was that moment where I started to think about, It's not really about me anymore. At this point, when I have written the book and I want my story to be impactful in someone else's life, it's not about me anymore. It's really about who can I inspire today? If I can just inspire one person by sharing and telling my story, then that serves me the purpose, right? That's great. That would make me feel really good. And it was after that I published that book, which was like what, 40, I was 40, 43, 44 when I started my coaching business. And it was that point where I want my message to go out, to be impactful, to influence somebody, to be the inspiration for someone else, then I start getting more comfortable. It's a slow process. Sometimes I still get into that self-doubt moment. While I'm telling this story, how would people think about me? Would they think about me being promotional? Would they think about me? But I always have to stop myself, right? What you believe is what you achieve. I always have to stop myself and say, no, my intention, my purpose for telling the stories is so that I can inspire someone, maybe someone who's listening to the podcast. Maybe they're struggling with something. I don't know, right? But my intention is to inspire that one person to get up and do something today. And when I think about that, it got me feel very comfortable. Like slowly, I'm able to tell my story. I still get very emotional. I mean, there's emotional aspects to every time I tell. I get it. My eyes get water but then it's the whole intention and purpose. And something that you said earlier about, how there's a lot of judgment and hurtful feelings that we heard from other when we were little. It's harsh. Like kids are cruel. Kids were cruel. But one of the practice, and this actually has a Hawaiian descent. So I learned the Ho'oponopono meditation and it's about forgiveness, right? It's about forgiveness and there's that saying, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me. And I forgot, I can remember the last one, but it's about forgiveness. And when you forgive someone else, you also forgive yourself. And that was such a big relief for me. When I forgive someone else, I forgive myself.
That is incredible, Ho'oponopono. It's made its way to your life. It's quite a customary practice here, where that's how when you have conflict, when you have disputes, the Hawaiian culture provides this method called Ho'oponopono, where they all come around the table and we share openly, with the common goal though to resolve the issue.
Mhm.
No one's going to win or lose. It's an amazing practice, and we actually will be having a an expert on Hawaiian cultural practices on the show very soon. An amazing gentleman. Um, but as I was saying, when we're young, and the children aren't born cruel, and they think it's funny. A lot of kids think it's just funny. They get a laugh when they tease someone else, and they're not at that age. They're really not developed to the point
Yeah.
that they can understand the impacts that the person being bullied is feeling, and that's quite it's quite awful actually.
Yeah.
Um, so again, uh, Machu Picchu. Uh, Now I can understand if you wanted to go hike at the tallest mountain in your area where you live. I live right at the base of what we call the Sleeping Giant. It's
Mhm.
called Nuho Mountain, and it's a very short 45-minute hike. It's nowhere near Machu Picchu. Uh, but I understand in your story how you wanted to get to Machu Picchu, but there had to have been a lot of people, including your trainer, trying to discourage you because they didn't believe you could do it, obviously.
Mhm.
How do you overcome that? I understand the motivation and the desire and the dedication and the discipline, but at some point, realities had to have come in where you had some doubt. But Machu Picchu is not one that I don't think I could make Machu Picchu. In fact, I'm positive. Well, maybe after today's podcast, I can. Where was that trigger to say Machu Picchu is where I am going to do? I'm gonna hike.
I think what is really attracted to me with Machu Picchu is the fact that it's a very, very sacred and it's very ancient. And I think on that journey, I was doing a lot of self development. I was doing a lot of self help. I was doing a personal development. So to me, it was a very spiritual and very sacred place. And I remember I was picking a place to travel. And it was the right moment at the right time that Machu Picchu came to my ear. I'm like, okay, so I keep hearing this Machu Picchu. What is it about it? So I actually bought books to study Machu Picchu. I watched videos to learn more about Machu Picchu. And the more that I learn, not only is it one of the ancient seven wonders of the world, it was also part of this whole idea of, men overcoming the nature by how their incredible big giant stones are being lifted and travel up to this sacred place. And how did men overcome the obstacles of getting these stones, the big giant steps up there in the mountain? And it's such a I guess the willpower of wanting to accomplish something. And there it is, it's becoming a legend. It's like it's part of our history that it's going to remember years and years and years along. And so that really inspired me and sparked that curiosity. Not only do I get to travel to one of the seven wonders of the world, I also get to learn the culture. I would consider myself very people person. So every time I go travel, I would like to meet the local. I would like to converse with them. I would like to experience their culture, learn a different culture, learn a different language. So that was really attracting to me in terms of the historical history behind Machu Picchu and also the people. It's a different culture that really attracted me. So in addition to just being motivated, wanting to go, I also think that, there's some spiritually, it just really, really connected every dot that I was on. It was the right path I needed to take. And it was nowhere else besides Machu Picchu. I had no doubt that it was going to be the place. I did have a lot of naysayers, including my best friend who went to the trip, went to Machu Picchu. She hiked through the Inca Trail. She came home and she was like, "Michelle, you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to break your knee like I did. You're not going to be able to climb. How are you going to get up there?" And there's just a lot of naysayers around me at that time. But then there's also people who were very positive, who said, "Michelle, you should totally do it. You've been training, you've been working out, you got this. You have great upper body strength. That you can do this. You've been working out very long time. Go for it. And just be prepared. Here are the things that you need to prepare for." So there are people who's very positive and encouraging, and who actually gave me a list of things I need to look for, and all these things that I need to be considered, like including when to book the trip, what is the best year so that it doesn't rain. When it rains, these are the things that you need to look out for. So they're so supportive that the naysayer, what their opinion just no longer count. Like you can say whatever you want, but if you're not helping me, then why should I listen to you?
And in the defense of the naysayers, I think uh, there are some severe concerns, some very strong
Yes.
concerns about your well-being, and I, not necessarily in a negative way, but uh, I probably, had I been your close friend back then, would have been one of those people saying, "Michelle, let's go try something else." I might even go with you. But that's powerful. You
Yeah,
you
my sister actually said, "Michelle, why don't you just book yourself a five-star hotel and just go there for 2 weeks? Why do you have to do this?"
Yeah, go, yeah, go zip lining or something, Yeah, maybe
Exactly.
bungee jumping, maybe. You mentioned your book, Perfectly Normal. That, by the way, listeners, the link is in the show notes in the description. Please go ahead and get a copy. I cannot wait to read it. I'm just so inspired right now. It's hard for me to contain myself. I'm gonna be honest with you, Michelle. We talk to a lot of people like you, and every so often you get that story that is just number one, it's really hard to believe. It's hard to imagine. And then it just triggers that whole rush of hope that, my gosh, what I thought was a obstacle, what I thought was an obstacle in my life, in my business, all of a sudden seems so minute that I want to get started all over again and just have this new mindset. That's what you're doing. And I know you brought up that sometimes that apprehension because it may appear that you're uh, self-promoting, but you're not selling a gizmo. You're selling a mindset. You're sharing a mindset, something that so many people lack. Right? They just give up. It's just nowadays it's so easy to give up. You you created a business now. You're a 4'4" Chinese American female that uh, uses crutches, and you've created a business that was designed to help people.
Yeah.
How did that come about? When did you decide, what I experienced should be shared, and I want to be the one to share it? When and how did that happen?
So it happened after I came back from Machu Picchu, and I realized as I walked in to the sun gate when everybody stood up and they were all cheering for me, I realized that on this journey, I couldn't have done it alone. And because during that 4 days, I keep having these passengers passing me by, and every single one of them, as they're passing me by, they either were clapping or they gave me 2 thumbs up, they were cheering for me, and that was very encouraging for me to know that, "Hey, I'm not on this trail alone, and I don't have to worry about I'm gonna fall or die because there's always going to be somebody out there who's going to carry me to move on." And so there's always somebody who's willing to give you a helping hand if you let them. And so when everyone stood up for me as I walked in, I realized that my purpose is to inspire. For the longest time, I couldn't figure out like exactly why I am here. Why did all these tragic moments happen to me? All these judgment, all these criticisms start happening to me. And so I placed myself into a place where I am the victim of some very tragic event. But that day, when people stood up for me, I realized then I am not a victim in this lifetime. I am not a victim in the fact that I can actually have a purpose. The reason why I was born with the purpose, and my purpose is to inspire. So I remember coming home and I was sitting there and thinking, well, what would be my next step? What would be a way for me to share this inspiration? And I've been in the healthcare profession for the last 20 something years. So I've been working as a clinical pharmacist in a hospital setting for the last 20 years. And that wasn't enough. Not only did I get burned out, overwhelmed, and really stressed, it didn't feel fulfilled. And what really fulfilled me is being able to listen to people, talking to people, having conversation, building that relationship. That really fills my day and brings smiles on my face. And so I realized that healthcare is not my where my purpose is. And so I was exploring. I was looking for answers. So I went into nonprofit. I volunteered for a nonprofit for a year. And then I went to Cambodia. I volunteered for a school. I was teaching children English for 2 weeks. And then I came home. I was like, huh, maybe my purpose is somewhere else. And so it was funny because the right time, the right moment at the right place, it happened again where my friend were telling me about how he was looking for a life coach for his nephew who needed some help. And I was like, that was the first time I ever heard of the term life coach. So I came home, I asked Google, the best friend again, right? So I typed in Google, what is life coach? And it gave me like a whole description of what life coach do. And I'm like, hey, that's something I've been doing and listening to a lot of people and giving them advice from my personal experience. I didn't know that you can actually get certified in doing this. So I enrolled myself to a coaching school and got certified, and I am an ICF sort of accredited life coach. But life coach wasn't it either. I remember I started my business as a life coach, got out of coaching school. I started to work with everybody. And there's that moment where, we go back to that feeling again, right? Negativity. It was so draining. And I didn't want to be in that space anymore. And so I remember my second year in my coaching business, I was working as a life and mindset coach. In my second year, I realized that my true passion is helping people to get out there to spread their message. My true passion is where I'm really gifted in doing is being able to do storytelling. I've been a storyteller all my life. The story that I told myself, the story that I told my friends about what happened to me, to my car accident. I've been a storyteller all my life. And that's something that I'm so gifted and good at. Why not teach other life coaches and mindset coaches how to tell their stories so they can inspire more people so that they can do what they were meant to do to spread the love to the world. So nowadays I am a visibility coach. Visibility has to do with just creating a visible business so that everybody knows about who you are, how you serve, and who do you serve. And so I work with a lot of life and mindset coaches to help them to get their business out. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I have this image of me being at the top of the mountain. I was able to climb Machu Picchu. But when I look down, there's still a lot of people who couldn't go to the top yet. Right. So I got the inspiration on that trail from all these passengers who was passing me by. I want to be that passenger who's passing someone else's by. I'm turning around. Not only am I holding my hand out, I'm also cheering them up. I'm also cheering them for their success in their business. So I have this motto on my website as reaching the mountaintop one step at a time. And that's what I'm here for. And so I've been a visibility and marketing coach for women coaches. I help them to use the power of storytelling so that they can turn a passion and love for coaching into a profitable business. So that is where I am now.
You spend a lot of time, or your focus is really with women in business, and there's still a long way to go to bring women. And I, for the life of me, in our in our life and times of the United States of America, I still wonder why we don't have that equality in business. And but there are many women like yourself who have, but they've taken it. They haven't waited to be handed it to them. No, you've grabbed the bull by the horns and you said, "Nah, this is mine. I'm going to take it." You still believe women can? This is a really dumb question, but women can have it all: the career, family, love, and all of that in this world that we live in today.
I do, and I absolutely believe 100% of it. And I think women's are already doing it. It's just that some of us we still get into that mindset of I don't have the voice, or they're not sure how to express themselves. So I believe that a lot of women already have it. It's about how they express themselves so that they can truly stand out. And I think, in the society and even though I'm working with only women, but I do know a lot of my followers are actually men, quite honestly. And I do know that a lot of men actually feel they feel they need a visibility coach because they actually need someone like me to help them to build that visible coaching business. But I feel that men are more they have a better way of expressing themselves, and they're not afraid of expressing it because, in a society, even though we talk about gender equality, a lot of time, women still feel that they don't have a voice at the table. And my whole model for all the women, if you want to have it, which you already have it, what you need to do to have that voice at the table is you have to start believing it, right? You have to show up and you start believing it and actually speak about it and have a voice about it because people need to hear you. And if that's a someone else at the table, if it's a all male dominant table at your workplace, by actually expressing it, you'll be shocked by how many gentlemen welcome the feminine voice and energy on the table. Because someone who's driven, someone who's dedicated, someone who's like, yeah, we need to get things done. And woman knows how to get things done. Woman can be a mom, a cheerleader, your best friend. A woman can play so many different roles, and men actually welcome to have a feminine voice at the table. It's just something that I learned.
And I believe that as 100% true, no doubt about it. I know that that's the case for me. I am thankful for women because of what they, you know, ultimate gift of childbirth. I mean, I
Yeah,
am so thankful that I don't have to go through that. And women in business, just in my experiences, and I'll be honest, they're much more driven.
yeah.
And given that opportunity, uh, they will go for it. And that's why I appreciate you doing that. Um, we're coming up to our time, and I could talk to you all day long. Again, Michelle Kuei, the links are in the description for her book, Perfectly Normal, as well as her website where you can connect with Michelle. But if you could sum up your most impactful life lesson, what would it be?
I would say be brave. Bravery, I always say it's a choice. Bravery is a choice that we choose every single day. And the reason why I said that, a lot of people say, well, but I fear. So bravery is something that you do every day despite a fear, right? Even though you have this self-doubt, you have moments where you don't believe you have it. But the fact that you woke up today, you woke up this morning, you have chosen, you're choosing brave. You're choosing brave to get up in the morning, to wake up. And so bravery is a choice. And it is a choice that we make in face of adversity, changes, obstacles, and you're choosing brave every single day.
Michelle Kuei, I will tell you, this is probably one of the most powerful episodes I have ever done. Definitely, I call them nuggets. The nuggets that I received today. I, you know, I oftentimes when I hear a great speaker or a great thought, I think, man, I wish I had started earlier. Because as we're getting older, it's like, man, if I had known this or understood this. I mean, I think we've known these concepts for a very long time, but we never believed it or we never took action. And I think I cannot help to think, my gosh, if I had just put these concepts into action 20 years ago, life would be different today. But I firmly believe nothing happens by accident. And every one of us has a purpose. And hopefully we use that purpose to make life better for others. And that's what you do. I cannot tell you how appreciative I am to even to know you and to have you share your thoughts, Michelle.
It's never too late to start. So after today, you're going to start. Mel, I will see you at Machu Picchu next year.
Whoa. Let's take it slowly. Let's take it slowly. Maybe we could hike the sleeping giant here. Maybe you can be my hiking guide going up to the sleeping giant here. It's very short. You'd do it, you'd smoke it. But
You got it.
all righty. Well, folks, appreciate you guys. Michelle, again, thank you. Wishing you all the best going forward. Thank you for what you do for people. And again, folks, get the links in the description and check out Michelle's book and her website. Stay safe, Michelle. We appreciate you. God bless. We love you all. Take care until next time.
Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha. Mahalo.